Have you ever stopped to think that the greatest obstacle in your life might exist entirely within the confines of your own mind? What if I told you that the force holding you back in your walk with God isn't a visible enemy or a wound inflicted by others, but the silent, persistent thoughts you've learned to tolerate? What if there is an invisible prison, built brick by brick from unresolved memories, echoing voices from the past, and negative words you yourself have learned to repeat? Words that now act as chains, preventing you from moving forward. And what if I told you that this message has found you not by accident, but as an answer to a prayer you whispered in the silence of the night, when only God was listening? There is a profound spiritual secret hidden here, one that few truly grasp. The mind too must be purified, washed, and consecrated to the Lord. Many do not realize that certain thoughts do not originate from God, but take root like spiritual squatters, sabotaging your faith, your peace, and your courage. But today, a light will be switched on within you. God will illuminate what has been contaminated, what must be removed, and what can flourish if you allow the Holy Spirit to cleanse your mind. Perhaps you are living in a cycle of stagnation, anxiety, or poor decisions, without understanding why. But God knows. He sees the labyrinths of your thoughts, the emotional webs you wove for survival that now suffocate you, and He wants to set you free. In the words that follow, you will discover that the most powerful battlefield of the spiritual life is the mind. A cluttered mind prevents the heart from finding rest, the eyes from seeing clearly, and the soul from trusting completely. But do not be alarmed. What God intends to do today is not merely to teach a lesson, but to purify you from the inside out. He wants to teach you how to identify the thoughts that are not from Him and how to cast them out, one by one. The cleansing of the mind begins with recognizing the invisible battle. There is a truth that many devout believers have yet to fully comprehend. The greatest spiritual war does not happen outside of us, but within us. As long as you are trying to conquer with external actions something that is contaminated on the inside, your soul will remain in conflict. The enemy of our souls knows that if he can control your mind, he doesn't need to touch your life, because your life will simply follow the course of your thoughts. As it is written, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." This is why so many people pray but remain captive, read the word but feel no change. They are attempting to live a deep faith with a superficial mind, polluted by old beliefs and unhealed frustrations. The enemy works in the shadows, whispering thoughts that sound like your own. "I'll never change. God has forgotten me. Nothing ever works out for me." You repeat these phrases almost unconsciously, but they carry the venom of spiritual stagnation. Jesus, in the wilderness, did not fight the enemy with force, but with the word. For every distorted thought thrown at him, he responded with spiritual truth. It is written. Herein lies the key. A mind can only be cleansed when it is flooded with eternal truths. But first, you must identify the lies occupying the sacred space of your consciousness. This requires brutal honesty. You must look in the mirror of your soul and ask, what thoughts are distancing me from God's presence? What ideas have I embraced as truth that were actually sown by pain, fear, or rejection? This process is uncomfortable. Cleansing the mind is like entering a dark room in your soul where things have been stored for years. Traumas, cursed words that marked your childhood, memories you've never dared to face. But by opening that door with the light of the Word, you begin to see that many of your feelings of inadequacy and fear are not from God. They are distorted mental constructs. Remember the story of the prophet Elijah. After a great victory, a single threat from Queen Jezebel sent him into a spiral. He fled not from her, but from the collapse of his own mind. He hid in a cave, a place of isolation, and prayed for his life to end. It was not Jezebel who defeated Elijah, it was his own mind. God met him in that cave not with a rebuke, but with a gentle whisper, asking, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He was asking, "Who convinced your mind to hide? Who told you that you have lost your value?" A tired mind misinterprets reality. Elijah believed he was the only one left. But God had preserved 7,000 others. A mind clouded by exhaustion and pain cannot see what God is doing. That is why God came in a whisper. When the mind is in collapse, the soul needs tenderness, not another display of force. A clean mind is one that can recognize the Father's voice even in the midst of chaos. Your thoughts can become strongholds. But God has given us spiritual weapons, mighty to demolish them. Every time you declare a biblical truth over yourself, a crack appears in the fortress. Every time you reject a thought that diminishes you and proclaim what God says about you, a piece of the wall falls. Every time you refuse to repeat the cycle of guilt and choose the path of grace, the structure begins to crumble. This is a daily act of worship. Renewing your mind is not something you do once, it is a continuous process. You must guard the gates of your mind by being intentional about your environment, the content you consume, the conversations you entertain, the people you surround yourself with. You cannot seek a clean mind while living in a polluted environment, and you must learn the power of your own voice. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Stop repeating destructive phrases like, "I'm so anxious," or "I'm terrible at this." Instead, learn to speak over yourself what God speaks over you. "I have the mind of Christ. I am a new creation. The peace of God guards my heart and my mind." When you speak God's truth aloud, your mind begins to register it on a deeper level. The old echoes of the past, the rejections, the failures, the shame, begin to lose their power. Do not be a prisoner to your past. The Apostle Paul, who had a past that could have destroyed him, made a choice. Forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal. He did not forget his past, but he refused to be defined by it. Grace does not just forgive you. It redefines you. Today is the day to make a choice. You have been led to these words because the Holy Spirit has found in you a willing heart. You know now that your thoughts are doors, and you have learned that the mind is a sacred space, a sanctuary meant for the presence of God. You can no longer pretend you do not know. This transformation begins with a decision, a conscious act of protecting your mind as you would a holy altar, of carefully selecting what enters, of courageously confronting what is already rooted, and of replacing the noise with praise, the lies with truth, and the fear with faith. As an act of faith, a spiritual declaration, let your heart agree with this truth. Affirm to yourself, to heaven, and to every shadow of doubt. My mind is a sanctuary, and only the Spirit of God dwells here. You are not the only one fighting this battle, but you can be one of the few who is determined to win. You have arrived at the end of this message because you are part of a select group, the ones who do not give up, who choose to dive deep, who are willing to be healed. From this day forward, your mind will be different. Where there is cleansing, there is freedom. And where there is freedom, the presence of God remains.